Good evening and welcome everyone to part 2 of our special air YouTuber panel, what we're calling it, where we've got a bunch of wonderful human beings with me and Andrew. If you caught part 1, you already know what we're doing here, but if you are popping into part 2, let's give you a little taste of what's happening. We've gotten a bunch of great people together who all do content mostly, if not exclusively, based on the series The Wheel of Time. And we have brought them together to make a collaboration video extravaganza so that we can all talk about a series that we all seem to love. With us today, we have a bunch of fun people, but before we get to who they are and what we're going to be talking about on this particular part, as I said, this is part D of the series, we need to throw on some happy protection to make sure that all of the people watching at home don't ruin their day by finding out things that they shouldn't yet know. So, Andrew, can you hit them with that info?
I mean, I can tell them. I'm not going to hit them because that's assault. Kind of go to jail for that, and I like not being in jail.
That sounds like a you problem.
I mean, yeah, maybe one day. We'll see. Or not. Hopefully not. So, the following episode contains spoilers from books 1 through 14, as well as the prequel, as well as the Big White Book of Bad Art and the Wheel of Time Compendium from Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. It is a fantastic series. But if you have not read the entire series, potentially including the prequel, and if you've read the whole series, technically you've been exposed to all the information from the Big White Book of Bad Art, or what's it actually called? The World of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, or something like that.
That's what it's called.
It's like the hardest name to remember out of like every single thing associated. Or the Wheel of Time Companion. You would have already been exposed to it, whether you realized it or not. So we can't be held liable for that. So don't try to sue us for it. But yeah, if you haven't finished the whole series, you're at risk of being spoiled. You are a free sentient being with your own free will. So by all means, proceed at your own risk. You have been warned.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that wonderful information, Andrew.
I was just kind of hoping you would keep pouring until I stopped talking.
Oh, I didn't want to do that. This glass isn't actually large enough for an entire bottle of wine.
Oh,
that would
I was
be
just
ridiculous.
gonna. Your cup runneth over, and if you stop, you're a quitter. Do you want to introduce the lovely people we have with us there, Daniel?
Indeed, I would love to do that. So first, we have our wonderful little friends from the Leaf Cast. Y'all want to tell us a little bit about yourselves and your channel?
Wait, give me a second. The applause is deafening.
Yeah. Guys.
Okay.
Guys, come on.
All right.
Stop,
Okay.
please.
Insert applause.
Thank you.
Or that MP4. MP3.
Okay. We are the Leaf Cast. We are the Way the Leaf, and we are a reread show right now. We are on YouTube and we are on podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Leaf_cast. Our Discord is a fun place. We got a lot of crazy things. We have a channel called Well Turned Calves, where everyone takes pictures of their own calf. We got, channels for pets. We got everything. Anyway, so our Discord is fun. We are happy to be participating in this. Thank you so much. And this is the round 2. Round 1 was great. I can't wait to see what round 2 brings for us.
Awesome. Well, we are happy to have you here. Thank you very much. Guys, you already got one round of applause. Stop. We know they're awesome.
Guys, Daniel's talking. Let Daniel talk. People.
All right.
People.
All right, no, please, everyone, stop.
All right, thank you.
All right, and second up, we do have the lovely, the talented, the wonderful Badger Reborn. You've seen him on the green. You've seen him in part 1. Now you are seeing him in his new form back once again, reborn into the handsome body of this gentleman here. This is the Badger Reborn. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Guys. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Badger?
So distracted by this well-turned calves thing. I'm gonna find that after.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm the Badger Reborn. I'm a content creator on YouTube, and I'm really excited to be back and continue this conversation with all of you guys. But I have a YouTube channel talking about the Wheel of Time TV show and books, mostly full spoilers. Some videos have no spoilers. Recent video that I made was examining whether transgender characters should be introduced in the Wheel of Time TV show. And I have a lot of other great videos as well, along with a Twitter and a Discord, both called the Badger Reborn. So check me out.
Nice.
You know, you should take, and if you ever do a completely like no holds barred uncensored series, like on Patreon, just be called the Badger Out of the Bag.
I love it. I love it.
Good.
I do have
That's
a Patreon video talking about the boobies of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
There you go. That should be episode 1, the Badger Out of the Bag.
I like it.
The boobies out of the bag? I don't know. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Booby? Like the birds, of course, because
Yeah.
nothing else would make sense.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
You have to workshop that one.
Yeah, no, I like it. We'll talk. My people will call your people.
Okay.
It's cool. So thank you very much, Badger. And last, but certainly not least, we have our wonderful representative here from the Gleemen. Now, normally there are 2 of them, and you may have caught, well, probably should have caught, Drew and Vance both here with us in our part 1. But here in part 2, unfortunately, only half of the wonderful duo could be with us. But, Vance, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your partner and the Gleemen channel?
Sure. So we are the Gleemen, me and Drew. Sadly, he couldn't make it today due to previous obligations. So we miss you, Drew. Wish you were here.
Obligations.
I know, right? It's almost like he has a life or something outside of the Wheel of Time.
True
dare
poo.
you.
So,
True
right.
poo.
We are on YouTube at the Gleemen, and that is capital THE space Gleemen, plural, not man, just so everyone knows. You can find us
there
on,
are 2 of them.
There are 2 of us, exactly.
And not to be confused with the male vocalist group from the show Glee.
Right, or the 1970s Italian prog rock band, also called the Gleemen, which was the only thing on YouTube when I searched that name. I was like, well, they're not around anymore, so I guess we can use it now.
Until they are.
I was about to say.
Dun, dun, dun. So we also have Instagram and Twitter, mostly where we're out there doing shameless self-promotion and interacting with the lovely Wheel of Time community online. So we are in basically everyone's Discord around here. We do not have our own, but if you are a member, just go ahead and feel free to add us at any time. We'll try to get back to you when we can. But we hang out in a lot of these lovely folks' spaces, and they so graciously provide.
And they add a lot to those spaces. So thank you very much
And if
for
you-
both being here and being on Discord.
And if you want your own Discord, let me know. I am fairly decently versed in creating Discords, and you can
Okay.
turn over ownership to people. You don't
Okay.
just because I make it doesn't mean it's mine forever. So
Right on.
more than
right on.
willing to help out a
Until
fellow
he
creator.
takes it from you later because of the bylaws you didn't read.
You didn't read the contract. Your soul and all of your followers are mine.
Ooh.
Also, your second-born child, because fuck the firstborn.
Well,
Right,
that's not a
right.
problem.
Always
'cause I'm not
entitled
having kids.
assholes.
Right. That's just
Problem
the,
for
that's
me.
just
No
the
kids.
first. That's just the you
It's
know
a
what's-
parental training
practice.
ground. The first
practice
child.
round.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
Child
given.
one is
You
the
always get a
sandbox version.
do-over, right? You have a first child, and you
It's the
ask for a
sandbox.
do-over.
The last one's always the best, I think.
And as you guys
Yes.
may have also realized, Josh is not here with us is either.
Who?
He
Who's that?
just,
Is
I
that
just forgot.
is he part in the Black Tower?
I think so.
Weird.
Really?
I don't
Never
know.
heard of it.
Hadn't
he here
seen
last
him
time?
in a fortnight.
Yeah, I think he was here for like half of the part 1.
Yeah, he kept having tech difficulties.
Internet
Anyway.
connection slam.
Josh is drinking to all of our cumulative successes here. But he has a family and a life outside of Wheel of Time because
Cheers.
he's
I'll drink
weird
to
and
that.
lame like that. It is a beautiful family, though. I mean, give him credit. Which everybody's family is beautiful. You guys have beautiful families. I've never seen them, so that might sound kind of weird. But I have seen Josh's family, and it's a beautiful, fantastic
he's
family.
definitely never seen your families. He doesn't stalk you online.
Mm.
Your families are a mystery to me. I
I'm
have
having a
never
flash-
seen them even once.
I'm having a flashback of Haggard right now. Like, I shouldn't have said that. Should not have said that.
I should not have said that.
You're a
But-
wizard, Harry. I should not.
You're a
say
hairy wizard.
Awesome. But as you guys know, if you came in for part 1 and you are now on part 2, and as I have sort of stated a little bit before, we've gotten these lovely people together, the 2 of us. There were 3, but now the 2 of us from the Black Tower, the 2 gentlemen from the Way of the Leaf, the Badger Reborn, and our 1 lucky member of the Gleemen. We've gathered us together to talk about one of those things that comes up pretty often when you are talking to people who know anything about any series, and that is unpopular opinions. We all have them. And never stop them. You will walk out into the Twitterverse and find out that some of your wonderfully held opinions are actually terribly unpopular. It happens to the best of us. And tonight we are dedicating part 2 of our unpopular opinions. As you might have seen if you caught part 1, we did get to 4 of the 8 members of the panel and bringing up their unpopular opinions, and gave everybody a little bit of time to respond. And now we are back to the other 4 members and their unpopular opinions, and then getting the takes of the 5 other people who don't necessarily share that unpopular opinion as to whether it is a good unpopular opinion, whether it is a bad unpopular opinion, whether it is actually an unpopular opinion or not. So definitely stay tuned. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I know that we did last time, and so here we go. I think we're kicking it off with
me.
Yeah.
Not intentional. We just stopped at halfway, and I just happened to be number 5 off of the original list. But very, very quick recap for those of you. This is a round robin style thing. Daniel pretty much has explained the entire thing. The way the more logistics of it work out is each person will explain their unpopular opinion, and then we'll take about 10 minutes. Yeah. Think about, well, you state the opinion and why you believe it, and then everybody else talks about their interpretations of it, what they think about it, whether they think yay or nay at the end. If it's something that we can kind of cumulatively vote on, agree or disagree, we do. After about 10 minutes or so of cumulative discussion about the unpopular opinion. So without further ado, let's get into what I think is personally one of the most intriguing unpopular opinions. Not to toot my own horn of Valir, but I really like my opinion because this is something that I've talked about in a couple Discords a while back. And it's about the nature of the one power, about how channelers use it. And the way I see it is the one power does not create things the way we interpret it. It's not like Harry Potter magic where what you're doing with your magic creates something entirely new on the world, but rather, because it's been confirmed that everything that we see, whether it's sentient, alive, dead, grass, air particles, whatever, each thing has its own thread and the pattern. So my unpopular opinion is that the one power is not so much an actual magical ability to create things, but rather it is a mechanism with which individuals have been granted access to alter threads in the pattern to be different things. Whenever you create fire, you are not actually creating... Yeah, you are not actually creating fire. You are changing the associative air and wood or whatever molecules around to be fire. And then in the instance of like starting a campfire, it takes over the natural progression of altering those threads as it would. You know, as wood naturally burns, it thread in the pattern changes, you know, from wood to charcoal to ash to whatever from there, because I don't know. I'm not that smart. So with that, the strength that we see people measure themselves and others in, whether they're male or female channelers, isn't really so much of how much of a power they can actually hold, but an interpretation for the human brain of how much change they can enforce on the threads of the pattern around them. So the stronger you are, is you have a greater accessibility to change weaves or threads of the pattern beyond you. And that the weaves we see and the stuff we see is just the human brain rationalizing and interpreting how we actually affect the pattern around us rather than creating something entirely new, which I think leads validity to the way Balefire works, to where you're now changing a thread of the pattern to just no longer exist. So that's pretty much my thought. It may not be the most well fleshed out one in terms of how I just put it out, but yeah.
Well, there you go.
Well, let me pick up my brain for a second.
I'm kind of hedging on Robert Jordan's love for physics with that.
Yeah, there's a lot to kind of break down with that. I appreciate what you're saying for sure. With the power, so we have that the males can do fire and earth. Isn't that what it is? Earth,
Yeah.
wind, and fire. Yeah,
They're
or
typically
that,
stronger in fire and earth.
Yeah.
yeah. So they can do fire and earth. The females have access to other things. We have
Yeah,
this
air and water.
air, water, and spirit. Right.
Spirit's supposed to be pretty even for both. Air and water for female channelers and earth and fire for male channelers.
Okay. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still trying to pick up my brain here.
Oh, dude, it's fine. Take your time.
Yeah. No, go ahead, guys. Anyway.
Well, is a structure that we're going to go in a structured
Round robin.
Respawn, correct?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if you would like some time, we can skip you and go back. That is on the table, but it is definitely sort of like structurally set.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, let me go ahead and just yield my time for now. If I can. I need
Awesome.
to process just a tiny bit.
So I think that me popping in here then is probably a good, Andrew and I have actually talked about this a little bit because he has talked about it a little bit on our podcast before. And I like the way that it's formed based on, again, Robert Jordan has definitely talked about in interviews and whatnot, his sort of appreciation at least for physics and whatnot. And definitely the idea that, no energy is actually created or lost. It's just changed that we have as far as the laws of physics in our world, I think do sort of play a part in the way that magic works in the Wheel of Time. I will say that I've always disagreed a little bit with it just because I definitely think that the way that it's described to me suggests that it's not just changing, the cognition of things. It's not just changing, oh, this is now fire. It is actually sort of creating a different thing out of nothing. And while the one power is sort of this river that flows, and there isn't, you're not actually creating the one power. You're not actually like, whatever. You're just grabbing a piece of it, and you have a certain amount of that river that you can hold within your body or within your psyche or whatever you want to call it at any given time. I actually think that is a tangible amount. I actually think that it is sort of a river with water, and the amount of water that you can have flowing through you is actually a thing. It's not just sort of your brain trying to figure out how to explain it. It is sort of actually an explanation. And so I do actually really like the theory. I actually really like the way that Andrew puts it, and I actually really like sort of the thought process behind it. But I have to admit that I am on the other side of it, where I do think that things are created and lost. I actually do think that the way magic works in the world is that there is this flow of stuff, and you have a certain amount of that you can bring into yourself at any one given time and use, and that it's not just changing things in the pattern, it's actually weaving a new pattern, if that makes sense. You are you are changing the way that the threads are woven, but you're not actually changing the threads themselves, kind of thing. That's my take on it. I as I said, I really like that description of it, and I think it's really cool. And if Brandon Sanderson or Harriet came out tomorrow and said that is how it worked, I would be fine with that explanation. I just don't. When I was reading it, I didn't get that, and so I am on the other side of, it's not just it's not how much of the pattern that a channeler can touch and how much of it they can just, actively change. It is actually a force that they are using, which is then changing stuff, but it's actually like, it's less direct than what Andrew
So you're basically saying that it's more of an alteration to an existing thread rather than a transformation of the existing thread.
Yep. It basically takes wherever that thread left off and changing the way that it's woven into the future, if you will.
You're altering,
but it doesn't change anything about the thread itself. Mm-hmm. The thread is still the thread, and it just weaves differently now than it would have naturally without the power, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Let's not all speak at once, gentlemen.
Right, Drew, but Drew is
that was the time that we set aside for Drew to talk, but he's not here. So
hey, Vance, do your best Drew impersonation.
That's impossible. So I'll just be myself.
Oh, perfect.
So
even better.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of what Andrew said, I kind of like that he's bringing in like law of conservation of mass, and the whole no creation or destruction of energy concept into the entire use of one power. I also liked the idea that it is your will enforced upon the threads of the pattern to force them to change. However, I do disagree with it. And the reason I disagree with it is that the source to me is an infinite field from which all creation derives its ability to exist from, correct? So as far as that is concerned, since it is an infinite pool of energy, when we access the power and the weaves are woven from the power, that is actually new matter or new energy created from that infinite field into reality, if that makes any sense. So while honestly, on the scale of what a human channeler can do in the Wheel of Time, it's going to be pretty negligible, like without some of the song real that we see within the world. I do think that there is ever so much a small creation of new weaves into the pattern, but they're a lot of the time they're transient. There are transformative weaves, I do believe, that do alter the threads, but that's in addition to having things creating like fire and like if we were to weave like whips of air, possibly that might work better if you're using the existing air than creating new ones. But the fire thing, I think is just wholesale energy creation, unless it comes out with an explanation that it's not, which I haven't seen somewhere. To me, that's how I've always viewed it. So
let me make a concession with that point. Whether you alter it or transform it, the amount of matter present isn't going to change. The alteration is where you're forcing the matter that already exists to change because of an outside force. The transformation is where so the alteration would be like you add heat to a log and a chemical reaction occurs and it bursts into flames and consumes the oxygen, puts out carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide.
That's just science with extra steps.
Well, yeah. No. But the transformation is pull a little bit from Full Metal Alchemist right here, where there's an equivalent exchange where you're taking away wood molecules and adding in like char molecules that are on fire. That's actually a bad explanation, but the transformation is your outside force isn't causing a reaction to make it change, but rather it's changing what is into what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. Whereas the alteration would be the adding heat to a log and that causing the log to combust. So at the end, either way, the result is still perceivably the same. It's just the kind of underlying physics mechanism that changes how it happens. It's one of those, like, it's almost like a splitting hairs argument, honestly.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I haven't thought that much about the nature of the one power, so I'd have to think on what you said a whole lot more. To
Dude, you've read the Wheel of Time. How could you not have spent
yes.
a ton of
Hold on,
time thinking about the
no.
one power?
In the way
I
he
could
is
tell
talking
you
about
a
it.
whole, that's my story altogether.
If I expounded upon, because this is just, you can ask Daniel, this is just a small part of my overall theory about how the power works. If I expanded upon this, nobody else would have time to talk.
Right,
It's
right.
true. He's
Because it
done
has
it a few
further
times.
implications.
Right, and
Well,
it
not
Which is
during a
fine. That is
recording.
not me suggesting that it was bad. I've enjoyed every second of it, but it's a long time.
yeah. For sure. And for me, it's just I'm not as familiar with the intricacies of, how you're viewing it and everything. We basically got a 3-minute primer on what you actually think about it. So it's a little bit hard to come up with a detailed response to it. I need to go research and write an essay and then get back to you.
How I win, I play both sides.
There you go.
Evil.
Awesome. So Badger, I think you're next as far as response in the round robin.
Did we skip Ryan, or did I?
Am I wrong? Is Ryan before you?
Okay, guys, to be honest, we have no order. We're just relying
Okay,
on us all
okay,
being
well,
kind to each other. All right.
I'll go then.
We
because
had
I
an
don't want
order
Ryan
last
to take my
time.
Points.
And I deleted it because I didn't think about it. My bad.
Oh.
I was thinking that Ryan was after you. So please don't think that I forgot you, Ryan. You are next.
I
You
went
are
first.
on deck.
I thought I always went first, so I expected to kind of go last. Because, anyways, yeah, I'm good.
That works.
Well, I'm the only one with the actual order, so I'll keep that to myself. Just keep doing what we've been doing. But yeah, so I will go so that Ryan doesn't take my
Rude.
points.
Stop being prepared. Don't do that.
I know.
How much time?
So first off, I was impressed that you mentioned Harry Potter, because I don't know how much of a Harry Potter fan you are, but in Harry Potter, Gamp's law of elemental transfiguration says that you can create things from nothing, except for a few exceptions like food, which seems kind of consistent with the Wheel of Time, because you can't create water that you can drink yourself, which has always kind of confused me, because I'm pretty sure you can create fire that you can burn yourself with. So I feel like there's some inconsistencies, or at least maybe something that I haven't quite grasped on the physics level.
Maybe not, because you can burn oxygen. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah,
you
so
can burn
I
oxygen.
don't even know what that means. But
Like
I
the ozone layer can legitimately be set on fire. It's one of the big concerns that they had to figure out before dropping the first atomic bomb.
Set fire
One
to
day.
the ozone.
One day. I can't
Sorry,
wait.
I only interrupted because I felt like it might add to your statements.
Yeah, no. It does, I think. But I have one definite problem with what you said in terms of the mental ability to make change, and that's kind of the amount of power that you have. I was really on board as you were explaining, until like the one thing that hangs me up on it is when you said that would be your amount of power. The one thing I thought of was that when someone is stilled and then they get healed by someone of the same gender, their amount of power they can channel is weaker. But there wouldn't really be any reason that their brain can now like conceptualize a significant amount less of change. And even like, in my opinion, like their imagination has kind of been expanded. They're something they never thought was possible is now possible again. And so that doesn't seem consistent. And especially someone being healed by someone of the opposite gender, their brain now being able to conceptualize the same amount as before, that just doesn't quite seem consistent with your theory. So I'm going to have to say the brain part throws me off. The rest of what you said, I think, can make sense. But I think there is just sort of a well amount of power that each person can channel. That's based on other factors besides your brain or your consciousness or something, or those factors.
To be fair, my only retort would not support my argument at all. That's one I'd have to think longer on. So,
Can I ask a clarification? For instance, could Moraine, when they were leaving and going to Berlin, she created a fog across the river. Mm-hmm. Could she have done that in the IO Waste?
Ooh.
So if I'm to side with my theory, then yes. I mean, well, what we're arguing here is it's a perception thing, or from the resources from the book of, can you create something that is or is not there? And my theory basically says that yes, you can. That you can alter a piece of air to be a piece of dirt, because you're changing it. Now, we can get deeper onto it whether there's limitations on, because ultimately I believe that it's all the creator allowing you to affect the pattern, and that's what this is all measured, and it gets further. But based off of what I've just said, then yeah, I'd have to say that yeah, you would be able to, because you would be able to split the oxygen and I just forgot chemical composition. Like I was an expert before. But you would be able to alter elements of the air and elements of the ground, and you'd be able to coalesce the water elements there and increase them by altering air, nitrogen, pick another atmospheric gas, and you should be able to change them into water. Yeah.
Yeah, H2O.
Because you can burn hydrogen, I believe, or a certain compound of
Hydrogen is
hydrogen.
incredibly flammable. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know you can burn it, but there's a process. You see it in the movie The Martian with was it Mark Zuckerberg?
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Sorry, wrong
Mark
person.
Zuckerberg is the
Mark
person who owns
Zuckerberg.
Facebook.
Yeah, I didn't say I was all here mentally. All right, so
He
but yeah,
owns Mars now.
He might have meant Jesse Eisenberg, who plays Mark Zuckerberg, and
Ooh,
holy
no,
crap,
nice.
is he more charismatic than the actual Mark Zuckerberg?
yeah.
Jesus
So anyway,
Christ.
use that movie as an example. You get what I'm getting at. Is that he does a process by which he burns hydrogen after creating the hydrogen gas from dripping some acid on some seemingly solid. I think it was like sodium something. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. That does in turn create water. So with hydrogen ever present in the atmosphere, I would say yes, that you could create the mist in the IL waste.
Can I jump back
You
in
have to
here?
change
and
more
push back?
stuff, so it would require more ability to affect more threads as a pattern.
Yes, Badger, please.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you maybe in theory would be right, and perhaps the channelers just don't know how to do it. But we see two different instances where someone needs to create a water source. Rand, in the waste specifically, tries to create a lot of water, and he has to do it by pulling water up from the ground where there's a big
Mhm.
well of water underneath the surface. And then later on, much later, Avienda's trying to put out a big fire in a house, and she has to pull it, just like drag it out of a river that's nearby.
Mhm.
And they can't just make it just like squirt onto the fire.
So the question there becomes, because a lot of this is reliant on your limitations by your ability of the human brain to interpret how you are using power, because it is taught that you are creating these things. You are creating or moving whatever object it is. So is it something that because of the way they're interpreting the world, they can't think to alter the air atoms to be pure water? Or is it something where that is impossible and they just can only move what is already existing? So my theory purports that with the proper mindset, and this goes a lot into Rand's pipe at the end, where I'm a big proponent of the idea that lessons learned from Teleron Riyadh is how you can will changes and plays a big factor into this. I see it as a bit of a training world for the ultimate usability of the one power in the world. Because naturally going around, you're like, I need water. Where can I find water? Most people don't think, well, let me just change the air into water. A lot of people think, well, let me find a water source and use it. So that's the best answer I can give to that.
Does anybody here think that in a previous age, like say the Age of Legends, that they referred to this whole process as weaves? Maybe they referred to it as atoms or right? Like maybe do we think that that's even how they thought about it?
Alchemy.
Because
To some extent.
I mean, so I have just one little thing I want to say about it. I actually have literally always thought that this is what it was all about. I thought there was a law of conservation going on, and I thought that the channelers were just pulling from a finite source of matter and energy, and well, not matter, I mean, just a finite source of energy to do what they're doing. And they're basically just altering, in my mind, atoms and electricity, basically. But what Vance just said about how what they're really doing is they're pulling from an infinite source, which is fascinating, because the space-time and continuum is supposed to be infinite, matter and energy is supposed to be finite. If you're pulling from an infinite source and bringing it into a finite process, that's where I think Vance kind of tripped me up. I literally always thought of it this way. I thought Andrew was correct when you were saying, I'm like, yeah, that's a matter of fact. I think that's how he thought about it. But then once Vance brought in that other thing, I thought, wow, okay, now I don't know how to put those two together.
So if Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time universe operates off of the laws of physics, where energy and matter can neither be created nor destroyed, then a pool of energy would by necessity be infinite, because as energy is used up, other energy becomes available, thus de facto making it infinite. It might have at any one point a measurable amount as it stands, but if you can't destroy energy and you can't destroy matter, it only changes form, then it would be de facto infinite.
Yeah, and the one thing about the Wheel of Time that I kind of always go back to as far as this particular thing, this particular theory, is balefire. And certainly I'm not saying that it is, that there is no possibility that this works a little bit differently than I'm thinking it does, or that I've always, or that they explained it in the series, because again, there are definitely people in the series who explain things somewhat regularly that then end up being sort of proven wrong later.
Well, the unreliable narrator
information, and we're like, that's not actually how that works. But the fact that balefire is a weave that then eliminates something not even just now, but before, definitely at least suggests to me that things in the universe of the Wheel of Time can actually be destroyed, and that it actually became such a problem that things were being destroyed, and in such a large degree and to such a large change in the pattern, that I would actually say in the world of the Wheel of Time, it at least strongly suggests to me that one of two things is happening. Either it was just a problem that so many things that were matter were being changed to energy so quickly that it really fucked everything, or that things were actually being destroyed, and that there wasn't the conservation of mass and the conservation of energy. And so that is sort of one of the things that I lean on as far as, from my reading in the Wheel of Time, it definitely seems to work differently than our laws of physics. And that it's definitely doesn't seem like a situation where it's our laws of physics just being described in a different way or anything like that. It's definitely an actual active difference of, I like the way that Vance put it, of that like infinite field that people are actually creating from and whatnot. That's sort of my response. And again, I'm not saying that it's still not possible that is an opinion that is, very supportable with the source material, but from my reading of it, I definitely got a different idea.
So let's hear what Dan has to say, because I think we've technically gone over the time for this topic. So let's hear what Dan has to say.
Great topic.
It is a good topic.
Maybe we'll do another episode and we'll pull people in to talk about the nature of physics and the one power in the Wheel of Time. I didn't honestly expect the discussion to be this long. I didn't.
Yeah, I think there's two important parts. One is the balefire, where if we have a transfer of energy, where does it go? We acknowledge that it all disappears and it goes back in time a little bit. It rips that fabric of pattern. There is no transfer per se. There's an erasure, which I think as we kind of it, as we perceive it. We may not know where that energy goes, but as we know it, it revives people from the dead. I mean, it's it's a pretty powerful thing. So there's that, and also the whole if you were in a barren desert, could you make a fog or not? And I'm not really sure if you could. It seems like I had always pictured it more in the Avatar sense, where you are water bending, where you are air bending, and you could create fire. And I'm down with that. I understand that. I'm not really sure what spirit defines and how you access that in nature.
Bloodbending.
Nah, it's the spirit world. Come on, man.
Yeah, it goes, So just Grandma? In general, I had always seen it as being a manifestation of something physical, even on a molecular level. But if there is no physical water, it would be very hard to make fog. It was, I mean, Rand was feeling the cool mist on his skin as they rode. And this fog was hundreds of, well, I would say hundreds of leagues, let's say, or pace. I don't know. I don't know what this, come on, guys. But so I do think, and my other point real fast is that I always, when Moraine described the flow as a river, and that they were the water wheel that just kind of rode and captured some of that. And I always pictured your limitations as far as what your bucket could hold, more or less. Most people have kind of a tiny little bucket, but when you get like 8 of them in the circle, you're able to kind of do some things. But a lot of people have bigger buckets that can swing more. And so I've always just used that water wheel and the river analogy. This is the first one we were given in the Eye of the World. And so I've always just like held to that when thinking of the one power.
I think my favorite new image is just who's the wise one who can barely channel, it's Sora Leah, right? Who can barely channel anything. But like just having her like in the waist and just like looking at everybody and like being all, and then just picking up like just taking out this tiny little cup and just like dunking it in the water and just tossing it at you. It's fucking adorable. I love it.
There's so much more I could say. There's so many points I want to answer what I believe the answer is on, but I can't because we have time constraints.
Because we'd be here for another 40 minutes and then we wouldn't get any.
So is this something that we feel that in its current state, I don't want to say this is absolutely definitive of it, but based off of what has been expressed and the arguments against, I would say for, but that's just me.
No, the rhyme was,
or not entirely just me yet. So is this something that we think we can take a vote on as expressed currently in this conversation, whether we agree or disagree? Because it sounds like everybody agrees that the theory is at least cool to entertain, but maybe not that it's the way things work. Or is this something we think we shouldn't vote on and wait until some point in the future where we can actually have like an entire episode about the nature of the one power and what it actually means to wield it?
So personally, I'm going to throw out there that I think that this is one of those topics that we can't really do a vote for, because I think that in the books, at least, there isn't truly enough evidence either way to really say one way or another. I mean, I know that all of this is based on opinions anyway. It's called unpopular opinions for a reason. But at the same time, I feel like all of us are so much like 6 in one, half dozen in the other, that like it would be
you need
hard
more
to
make
vote.
A decision.
Exactly.
You need more.
More
Right.
evidence.
I don't classify it as being unpopular. I think it's a deeper dive into what's going on.
Right.
And
I
so,
would agree with that.
yeah, I don't challenge it at all. I think it's an interesting conversation.
I would say I flat out disagree with the mental makes up your strength. I do think that part isn't consistent with the books. Although it's still a cool theory as
I
part of the
think
theory as well.
I think what I said on that might have been slightly misinterpreted because I wasn't directly correlating your will to your ability, more so of a creator granted access to affect the power.
Okay.
But that falls into the bigger discussion. So it sounds like we need to have another episode, at least those of us here now together, and do another collaboration in the future talking about the nature of the power. And I will come prepared with as much of this theory as I can written out so I don't forget it.
Cool.
That'd be great.
But for now, rumor has it that Brother Dan here has an potentially unpopular opinion to bring to the table.
Guys, I got a binder full. Hold on.
Oh God. A binder.
All right,
Wonderful. Topical, Dan.
Kiss my shiny metal ass.
All right, so
I'll make my own wheel of time with blackjack and hunger.
yeah. I'm going to challenge some of the fandom here. So when I look at most popular characters, we have Matt, we have Rand or whatever, and then we have Nynaeve, right? My opinion, it's too long didn't read opinion, is that the two Edmund's Field sucks hard, and I'm going to defend it by describing Nynaeve. Okay, so what they have is they have a wisdom who is 26 years old, who holds a lifetime position. She goes around with a stick, and I'm going. I have it on my phone. I have it on my phone here. All right, so the stick is described. The stick in her hand was thick at one hand and a slender switch at the other, and she was liable to give a flail to anybody she thought was acting the fool, head or hands or legs, no matter their age or position. Okay, so we hear that she tries to hit Senbui with a stick. Senbui's on the dang village council. This is like trying to hit a senator with a stick. But
You know
but
the
no,
history
no,
of South
sometimes.
Carolina.
Not the worst idea.
but not only
It
that,
has happened.
It
but
has.
yeah,
It
but
has.
but someone who is able to be voted out. This is John Roberts of the Supreme Court, who can't get voted out, hitting senators with a stick. She has a position of power. She is an angry woman who has always been combative to men, has always been judging things, whether this is women's circle business or village council business. This is what the Two Rivers and Emmonsfield in particular breeds. She is super conservative, and I'm not saying politically. I'm saying she is devout for the most part with her stout Two Rivers wool and her. She had that braid long after Egwin was like, yeah, I'm free. That braid was a shackle. Hell, fuck that. And threw it away. And Nynaeve was like, no, hey, and she had these things. She was a channeler that would potentially live for about 200 years, maybe. So the Two Rivers, Edmund's Field, would be stuck with this lifetime position. And sure, maybe she could heal things, but she'd also beat the crap out of you with her stick. She would walk around angry the whole time. She needed to go travel. She needed to find land. And I think that she picked land because she had this intense animosity towards Moraine and wanted to take something from her. But that's a separate.
What?
Hold on,
Just throw that in there.
However,
Lead.
however, let's just stick to Nynaeve in the Two Rivers. She was horrible. She was a bully. She was aggressive. She was violent, and she was adding to the regression of that village.
Dang.
Boom.
There's
So-
a lot to unpack there.
I'm gonna need to refill my drink on that one.
Yeah.
Well, go do that. I'm going to go ahead and take this one first because technically I'm the next person.
There you go.
And I'm not going to yield my time.
Please.
No, to be completely honest, I actually agree with you. For the most part, I actually am with you on this one, Dan. I'm torn in the Wheel of Time because Nynaeve is such an important character, and because later on, I want to say in the last, starting in the book 8, and then really coming down in the last 3 books, I think she does actually turn into someone who is very successful and who really does temper a lot of their bad traits. But that does mean that you spend, at minimum, 7 full books watching someone who is a bully, watching someone who is overly conservative and really just imposes their will on other people, do that in many different situations. And while I definitely think that, again, this is a regressed time, it is not, medieval, but it is definitely Renaissance. as far as like the time period that we're in. And so going ahead and like talking about it as like senators and judges and things like that isn't totally appropriate, just because, you know, we are in the super modern era where it's a very different form of government. It's very, you know, progressive and things like that. And judging the Two Rivers or Emmons Field with our current, you know, governing climate, I don't think is totally fair. But at the same time, again, I do agree that Nynaeve is not a good wisdom. I actually think that at the start, she is really bad for that village. And so I absolutely agree that Nynaeve is a huge liability and a huge problem in her initial iteration. And so I actually don't think that that is particularly unpopular. I think, as I said, she is incredibly integral to the plot, and she is incredibly integral to other people's growth, and that she does actually have her own arc that does come to fruition. I could not agree more that for most of the series, I think that Nynaeve in and of herself is a huge problem. She is a liability.
So I raise my little fingy there. Because I want to address exactly what you're talking about, and not saying that Daniel wasn't, because part of me can't, because I wasn't here for the whole thing, because I needed more rum in my life. If I look at it from exactly what you're saying and only evaluate Nynaeve as a character as we see her in Amon's Field before she shows up completely unwanted in other places, as far as we know, which is fantastic for her and her character development, by all means. I don't think you could say the same thing now, as I slap my mic, about the Nynaeve we see at the very end versus the Nynaeve we see at the beginning of the series.
And let me be clear, I'm talking about Emmons Field in general. If she never left to travel, she would have remained a horrible person for the rest of her life.
Agreed.
Trash.
I 100%, absolutely, unequivocally, without reservation, agree.
Okay.
Because outside of Amon's Field, or if it was only her bubble in Amon's Field, there was nobody there to challenge her, because anybody that challenged her was interfering in women's circle business.
And got beat with a goddamn stick.
Yeah, and got beat with a stick. Now, don't get me wrong, the absolute threat of violence and absolute violence is no way to conduct a government. No government that ever has done that has ever survived long. Survived for a short while.
Throwing swords out of a lake is no way to do government.
I didn't vote for you.
I'm being repressed.
This is the violence inherent in the system. The violence inherent in the system.
Yeah. So the Nynaeve that we meet, and that's part of what makes her ultimately an enjoyable character for so many, is you get to see that character transformation from this is what needs to happen. Oh, you disagree? My stick disagrees with you. Beat. And it's not, I mean, that's a police state. It's not something that you can tolerate in the modern world, in any modern world that has advanced beyond that. You can't really blame a world that's the best they've known, because they don't know any better. But Amon's Field subjugated. I hate to think what would happen to Amon's Field, subjugated to a Nynaeve that was never challenged, that has this 26-ish year old mentality of, I'm the youngest ever. I have to prove myself. I have to keep going, and I'm going to make them listen to me, whatever. So part of it, I think, and Vance, yeah, you're next. I think part of it is that mentality of, I'm young, I have to prove myself, and I have to deal with being a woman in a town that is 50-50. The men run it, the women run it, and at the end of the day, nobody really knows who actually makes the full-on decisions, because they think they're playing each other, and they're actually both playing each other, and somehow they survived this long, and I don't fucking know how it happened anyway. But yeah,
Sluhan.
but yeah, it's the honey cakes that rule the entire town. But yeah, so subjugated to a Nynaeve, they see things that happen later on in the series, not arguably, would have still happened. Amon's Field would have been very different. I would like to think that at the end they would still come out surviving, but not nearly as well as they do, because Nynaeve just has a ton of character growth. She might be 26, but it doesn't matter if you still act like you're 16.
Right.
Dance.
And
Right.
Talon was like, yeah, you should go out. She should be out finding men, flirting. And I mean, he said it kind of misogynistically, saying
Yeah.
that
Kinda.
little pretty slip of a girl.
Kinda.
But
No,
Vance,
Nynaeve needs a
Yeah.
Rumspringa. She
But he had a
absolutely
point,
needs a
yeah.
Nemensfield Rumspringa.
right.
all right,
Right.
but y'all, Vance is next.
All right, so I agree with the fact that Emmons Field has a little bit of cultural regression, and I think that's intentional on Jordan's part to show how backwater it is once we leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a little bit played up for the sake of a caricature, at least within the first book. Obviously, we get a lot more development on that as the series goes on, but it is a slightly like caricatured village at the beginning. My point I have is you said, well, Nynaeve's a channeler, so she would live for like 200 plus years. If she ever left, she would not have lived that long because she would have died. She would have died within like the next 5 years because she wouldn't learn how to channel as a wilder.
But she already passed that point. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that she
Yeah, I
actually
think
would
so.
have lived for the whole like amount of time that an Aes Sedai normally
Mhm.
does, or God forbid, not
yeah.
God
Give her
forbid,
120
Wilders-
times.
or that the kin live, for example, because they're not
Yeah.
subject to the oath rod.
Mhm.
But she did actually pass the channeler puberty kind of thing in
That's
terms
She
of the
right.
had her
fact
first
that
touching.
Yeah,
but she had her
still
first touching.
wouldn't-
She almost died, but she did actually survive touching the source for the first time. And so she might have burned herself out. She might have done a lot of different things with the power. But I actually disagree because I think it's well explained that she had actually passed that point where she was either going to die or not going to die, and she was on the other side of it.
Interesting.
She even looked younger than her age, it's pointed out, which I think is kind of that beginning of
Okay.
that thing.
That's interesting.
I
I
actually
didn't.
agree with
I
that.
didn't read it as that way. I read it as that she
Oh.
would have another opportunity to basically channel the power and then kill herself somehow.
Well, she-
Moraine
she-
even talks about other wisdoms around, like asking her about the other wisdoms around the area who were young and died. Right? Like they have examples of these
Mhm.
women.
Oh, there's a risk, but then don't we
Yeah.
meet some like Wilders who are pretty old, right?
I mean, it's everybody. If
That
you
is
can
true,
channel,
yeah.
you always have the opportunity. And if anything, I would say channelers themselves are more at risk for it when they lose control of their emotions, which I think is why the Aes Sedai enforce
Mhm.
emotion control so much. That if you lose
Right.
it and you pull a loose stare and create Dick Mountain, you're going to die.
Right.
But
Well, so
as somebody that's a wilder, that it's only really coming out, they're not conscious of what they're doing, and it's only coming out like with Nynaeve's case, like I really want to save this person, I love this person, because at her heart, Nynaeve is a very, very good person.
Mhm.
Yes.
So there will always be that opportunity. There could be a time where she tries so hard to save somebody that's, she could have a Rand moment where the
Mhm.
person's already dead, and she's like, no, 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 and she draws so much unknowingly that she dies. So it is possible that within the next 2 years she dies. It's also
Mhm.
possible that she barely touches the power and she doesn't die for 120, 130 years, and she's a miracle.
Okay.
And, she becomes Methuselah of Amon's field.
Right. Okay, that's fair. And thinking back to it, I think it was Moraine who did tell Nynaeve that, and it could have been a little bit of Aes Sedai trickery there, right?
Mm.
Like, hey, this is why you need to go to the White Tower. And it's like in the back of her head, ooh, I've found two of the strongest channelers in freaking hundreds of years.
If you don't go, maybe you'll die.
Yeah, right.
Someday.
So there could be an element of, like we brought up
It's
earlier,
not a lie.
unreliable narrative.
She always
Unreliable
says the
narrative.
truth,
So,
but the truth that you hear might not be the truth that you think you heard.
right. So
Well, and Nynaeve had healed Egwene before, and that's how she was able to track her somehow. So that sort of force power, one power healing had occurred enough that there was a tracking device apparently kind of implanted. So she has like thrown her juice around. It wasn't just herbs. It was mojo that she kind of weaved into Egwene without even knowing it, but she did heal her with the power, I would assume.
I no longer
So
wish
we're
to be
gonna-
at this water park.
We are going to flip the script just a hair here because we're technically back on the other order. And Ryan, I'm sure that you and Brother Dan have talked a little bit about this. I'm sure this didn't come out of nowhere, but what are your thoughts on this particular theory?
Well, Dan's theory actually included Matt as a character that if they never left Edmonds Field, we would hate them. Like imagine Matt as an adult who never left
And he
Edmonds
is
Field.
kind of insufferable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we needed him to be that way,
It's just
but I mean, I don't think he had good parenting. I think if he never left those
blaming it
environments,
on
he
his
would never have been
parents.
challenged to. I mean, he was such a culturally accepted, loser. Anything was happening that was going wrong, they instantly just thought it was Matt, even if he didn't do it at all. So under those,
Dinkelberg.
I mean, that's a tacit, communal oppression. Like you are now identified, and even if you're trying to do good, your motivations are going to be misinterpreted. So he had to get away to, become the great person he is. And I think the same with Nynaeve. I actually love the theory. I think it's more just kind of like a thought exercise, like what is Emmons Field really like?
Like the state of nature of man. It's a thought experiment.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, I am a thought experiment.
You're a lovely, fantastic thought experiment, sir.
You're a fist and some felt. What are you talking about?
Fist and felt. All right.
Badger?
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh, no, Ryan.
Go on. Yeah. I mean, Badger probably has some real strong feelings about whether or not like he would appreciate a 40-year-old Matt grabbing him and doing whatever he wants to get attention.
Threatening to punch kids. Yeah. Where does that end? Yeah.
I think
I
we
mean,
have
I'm
different
sure that
opinions on
Badger
what
has
40-year-old
very
Matt would
strong
do.
feelings on Matt and that particular sack.
Badger.
This is. I mean, let's get at it. Really, is this the origin story we're gonna learn right now?
Yeah.
I'm gonna steer away from that. I think just to keep what we can keep in the podcast. I do have some strong feelings about the theory on the whole, though. Especially like coming after Nynaeve, it's gonna get my hackles up. So I gotta respond in a more moderated way than I would like to, which would
oh no, bring it,
just
bring
be
it,
claws
man.
out.
Bring it.
I think one thing though with Nynaeve, she's definitely conservative, but I kind of wonder if it's not so much that she herself is so conservative as much as it is that she's insecure and she holds on to something that she sees as stable, or a bit of stability that she can stay the same and that she can kind of cling to when everything else in the world is changing around her. And that just sort of is the thing that she latches onto until she finally realizes, like, I don't need to hold on to this anymore. Which brings up kind of the bigger point of her development. And I think it's definitely a fact of the series that at the beginning she's pretty immature and not a good leader in the village. But I also think Andrew mentioned that she's a great person, and I think you didn't go far enough. She's maybe the best person in the entire series in her, like, in her heart, that sort of type of thing. I see those faces.
Right. Yeah.
She's near the top anyway.
Yeah,
But I
I'll
think
give you that. She's near the top. I wouldn't
near
say
the top
the
at
best,
least.
but
Near the top at least. So
Not
I
even
think
top
if she
top
were to
five.
stay in
She's
Eansfield,
not even top 5.
oh my goodness. Okay, regardless, if she were to stay there, I think not only was she thought of as being young, she actually just was an extremely young wisdom by any wisdom standards. So I think it would just be kind of a natural progression of her being a good person to learn those leadership skills. People in the village respect her more as she continues to do that position, and her to grow into that role where she's no longer thumping heads, except for Sinbui, maybe, and more using logic and persuasion, and just the influence that we see older and wiser and more respected people in the series use to get their way, and Nynaeve as the series goes along as well.
Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, and mostly because let's look at how she accesses the powers through anger. That is her block. That the more angry she is, the more she's able to do on a magical level. It seems that she is in the first few chapters maintaining that anger in order for her to be more effective. And so I do give her a pass for that. However, when she dealt with Tam, it was really the sparsest amount of empathy. I didn't really see her as more empathetic. And in fact, she kind of snapped at Rand saying, do you think I wouldn't do something if I could? And that was, to me, I gave her a pass because she had to keep her anger up like the Hulk in order for her to cure more people. But
That's a
I
good point,
certainly,
yeah.
I don't see her getting past that without guidance. So she would have been an angry, angry, angry person her entire life in order for her to be more effective in her healing and her job.
No,
All
and
right,
also
well, I'm gonna
I
step
do
in.
want to throw out there real quick that, like, again, I'm not suggesting that Nynaeve can't grow in Emmons Field, but if you look at all of the people in Emmons Field, they are pretty stuck in their roles that they were from a younger age. Senbui is still seen as how he is. The Congers, the Coplins, the Luhans, the Alvirs, all of them are pretty set in their roles. And so it really does seem like Nynaeve probably would have become more cemented than become more empathetic and become more whatever until many years down the road, when no one had known her other than the wisdom and nobody had known her as a little girl. And by then she's already so stuck in her ways, she's already so stuck in her habits, she's already so stuck in the Hulk that she is kind of insufferable for the rest of her life. Again, I'm not saying that that's the only way that it plays out, but it is definitely kind of human nature-y to, once you get comfortable in this is who I need to be when you're 26, and you're still doing it by the time you're 36, and you're still doing it by the time you're 40, by the time you're 45 and people are starting to give you a little bit of leeway, you're already so set that it doesn't matter that people are giving you leeway. You're still who you are when you were 30.
And it's
All
a
right,
lifetime
so-
position, so you can do whatever you want anyway.
I'm gonna step in here.
Anyway,
Moderator privilege here,
Yes,
because we
sorry,
got 15 minutes before a certain individual has a hard out for this recording.
Yes, sorry.
So we're very quickly. I believe the overall way to synopsize the theory or to give an overview to it is that had Nynaeve remained in Amon's field and not left, that she would have been horrible for the village. Is that
Could have
fair?
and likely would have.
Nope. Is that the theory, Dan? Does that surmise it?
I would say that, and that Emmonsfield breeds this sort of thing. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a vote here. So if you agree, let's go ahead and raise a hand where we can see it.
I don't like it, but I'm gonna go with it.
Oh. That is the
Unanimous!
first total
I got
victory.
I got a quorum.
Now, to be fair, we do need Drew and Josh to watch this or hear this at least to give it 100% quorum from this. But of the 6 of us represented here right now, that is the first unpopular theory.
High five.
That seems like it's more popular. Oh, yeah.
Wait, are we losing? Does that mean you lost or won?
No, I won. I win.
I think
A
that
little
means you
bit
lost.
I was
Take
must
it
be
however
missing.
you wish.
That's not unpopular. We love it.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
I think
Everyone,
that means you
everyone
lose.
liked it.
Yeah, you lost.
But
It's like
I don't like it.
all right. So since we have someone, Vance, you have a life that you have to live. You have about 13 minutes before you have to leave,
I'm
or you're going to
jealous.
get your ears
You
boxed.
turn into a pumpkin.
We're going to kind of jump the order, and Vance, I believe you're going to be a Terangrial-esque facet for Drew for his unpopular opinion, and we're going to try to get through that before you have to go. So
and by
what is
jump this, we mean that all of us are going to be out in 13 minutes, and I'm actually just going to cede my time to Drew via Vance. So have fun. Let's hear what Drew has to say.
Right. So Drew's unpopular opinion was Jordan had no idea where he was going when he started the story.
Ooh. Is that the whole thing?
That's the whole thing.
Because
He
that's
had
just
no-
accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that when he sent me that, I was like, bro, that's like, I mean, so here's my take on it. We'll go ahead and jump right into me. I don't think it's 100% correct. I think Jordan knew where he wanted to land. I think he didn't know how he wanted to get there, though. That's for sure. So it's a nuanced differentiation of it, but I think that's more accurate.
Well, yeah, because he initially started, he thought he was going to finish the series in 6 to 7 books maximum.
No, he went to the editor.
Oh,
and said, "I'll
was
do
his
it
initial
3."
3?
Yeah.
Oh,
To be fair, I think he
I
could
knew
have
about was
done it
6 to
in
7.
3 if he had gone ahead and said from the beginning that he was going to do it in 3.
Yeah. But I mean, so
Because I think reading The Eye of the World, I could see the whole thing take 3
Right.
books.
Yep.
But once you get to book 3 and he's still going strong, you're like, I don't want this to be 3.
Nope. Yeah.
I think he was playing
I
a game of
think he-
spades and he underestimated how many books in the game he could win. He
So I think-
bet like 3 books and he was like, no, I can actually win like 14
Right.
/ 15.
Oh shit!
Well, so
I'm gonna
what
shoot
I-
the moon here.
What
Fuck.
actually
Shit the
happened
moon.
was he
Nice.
went to Tom Doherty and he was like, "Hey, I've got this trilogy I want to do," and Doherty was like, "No, you go long. Give me 6." So it was actually Tor that told him, "Yeah, give us 6, not 3." So
Well, can we also mention having your, and this is probably a super unpopular opinion. I think she did a great job, but having your wife as your editor might not be the best idea at times. You might want an independent voice.
What is going on?
In
What's this
general, your wife,
topsy-turvy
I can't
world?
dispute the theory. Having Harriet be your editor, I think was a fantastic move.
There you go.
Oh,
So Harriet might be an
bullet
exception
dodge.
to the
Bullet
overall genericism of having your wife be the editor. But there is the argument we've made, like, well, who would feel more comfortable telling you in private that they think that you did something wrong than somebody intimately involved in your life, if it is a true, valid, intimate relationship?
Yeah,
Right.
no, and definitely if it's a partnership, like it very, very much seemed like it was between Harriet and Oliver Rigney. It really
Who?
does.
Who?
No,
Robert
I'm
Jordan.
kidding. I'm kidding.
It really does seem like there was no better person to go ahead and discuss things with in the Wheel of Time, because they were on a very similar page. I'm sure they didn't agree all the time, but they were on a very similar page as to what the series should go for. So I actually completely agree that your partner is a great person to have be your editor.
Can be.
Your wife is not necessarily a great person to be your editor, because your wife is not always your partner. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. I'm saying that they aren't always.
I mean, and we see proof with Harriet because of what she made Brandon do with
For
Bella.
example.
She's like, nope, you gotta hurt Bella. You have to do it. And Brandon's like, no. But it still happened. Don't be wrong. We find out in the
Do
companion that she
Do-
survived.
Bella.
Right. What was
Hurt
that wreck?
Bella.
Right?
But that wrecks so many people. Like, you love
really
Bella, whether you realize it or not. You love Bella.
right.
And then
Whether
it's like,
you think she's the
Bella's
creator
gone.
or not, she's beautiful.
Right.
what a staggering.
Yeah, that
Agreed.
companion little addendum really bothered me. I'm like, wait,
No.
Bella's alive and at Edmonds Field again? What the heck?
To be fair,
Oh, not
going
just
to the
that, she
actual
had
theory
offspring.
here, right? So going to the actual theory here, I actually, coming from this world, really very much feel like the Eye of the World is the pilot and/or first season
Mhm.
of the Wheel of Time. It absolutely is, and I think that, as you already said, and J.K. Rowling, any feelings that you have on her aside, absolutely did the same thing as far as the first book of Harry Potter, where when she was writing the Sorcerer's Stone, she also wrote the battle between Voldemort and Harry Potter. So she knew where she was going to land. And when the 7th book came out, very, very little changed about the last battle for Hogwarts. Now, granted, there's a whole thing there that I don't love because it actually sounds like she wrote it during the Sorcerer's Stone. And that's a whole different thing. But again, I actually agree totally with what Van said, that I think Robert Jordan knew where he was going to land, but absolutely changed almost everything about how he was going to get to Tarman Gaiden between the time that he wrote The Eye of the World and the time that he died and passed things on to Brandon Sanderson. And so I think that that's not necessarily an unpopular opinion, though it's not complete. that's what I would agree with you, Vance, as far as that
All right.
being true.
Well,
Ryan, you're next.
you like that? I have my hand raised.
I know, right? It's fantastic. Perfect use of the finger.
Puffy sausages.
It's some sort
Oh.
of bind. Yeah, these are not injured. This is how it's okay. Don't be alarmed, everybody. Okay, when I saw Brandon Sanderson, I'm sorry. When I saw Robert Jordan at a book signing in Santa Cruz, California, the classic kind of hippie Santa Cruz type got up and I think he literally might have been wearing a tie-dye, and he goes, "Excuse me, Mr. Robert Jordan, were you ever surprised by where the story took you? Were you ever like inspired by where the characters are going? And do you ever surprised by where?" And he goes, "Hey," he basically shut him up, and he goes, "I'm an Old Testament God when I write. Everything I do is on purpose. I knew from the very beginning what the ending is going to be, and I'm making decisions how to get there. And I've known from day one, this has been mapped out." And he made it very explicitly clear that, like, literally, this is almost like a vision that he had from the very beginning. Now, when I see the Dusty Wheel and they go through the notes, I do see that there are a lot of changes that seem to contradict that attitude he was showing during it live. Like, that was very dramatic how he said that, and I'll never forget it. He is an Old Testament God. If someone dies, it's because I killed them, is how he basically said it.
I mean, let's not forget, I don't mean to interrupt, the simple fact that the framework for what happens, the biggest event of Winter's Heart, we get the guidebook too in Eye of the World.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cleanse Sidene? Well, if you knew it was coming and you know what to look for, like Rand definitely didn't, but got lucky enough because plot armor, and he has fantastic people around him, like men that read a bunch of books that are like, you need to do this kind of thing. You know how to cleanse Sidene from the end of book one, but nobody in book one is going to look at that shit. I guarantee you, there's not one single person. There's not two single people in the entire world that read the Eye of the World, got through, and was like, in like 7 books, they're going to figure out how to remove the taint from it. But
the vast majority of couples got it, though. Only 2 single people, but the vast majority of couples.
That's because when you Google how to get
right.
That's because when you Google how to get rid of the taint smell, like it's one of the things that pops up. But Badger, let's move to you, because I do want Vance to hear the conclusion of thoughts on this topic, at least before he has to dip out. Vance, there's also a DM for you on Discord if you would check it.
All right.
That he was wrong, and this is why.
Let's go punch Drew in the gonads. Anyway, sorry, Badger, go ahead.
I guess I just have like a quick thought-ish, and kind of what on the topic you just mentioned in terms of what's there in Eye of the World. There's definitely quite a lot in Eye of the World that's setting up for future things. So I think while it was like a season 1, and I think there were also maybe a lot of threads of the pattern that Robert Jordan was planning if he got a chance to do more. And he didn't know where all of them were exactly going to branch, but he at least had ideas of where they were going to start threading. I think there are some writers, and see this in movies, J.J. Abrams maybe sometimes with perhaps the first Star Wars of the new trilogy, just makes mysteries and has no idea where they're going to go. And just thinks, I'll figure all these things out later. And I think Robert Jordan maybe did that with some things. Like there are a few Min visions that we get that it's like, that doesn't really seem to connect to anything at all in the series whatsoever. But with most of it, it's like, wow, he must have had an idea at least of what that was going to mean, because it's so omniscient at the beginning once you read a section later on.
Mm-hmm.
So the original theory was that having Harriet as one of the editors was a bad idea.
That was an aside.
That was a tangent.
That
was a secondary hot take.
It's too many people.
That was me. Sorry.
I know.
What was the original theory?
The original theory was that Jordan had no idea where he was going when he started the story.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that
that's
all of
something
us
we can vote on.
actually are disagreeing with that. I will throw out there
Well,
that there
let's
are
take a vote.
actually a number of things
So-
that don't necessarily come to fruition, or that the rules change a little bit between Eye of the World into the rest of the series. But I definitely think that all of us are on the page that at least Jordan knew where he was landing, if not most of how to get there.
May not have known the
or
specifics,
whatnot. Exactly.
but he may have.
Yeah.
But he knew exactly.
So, yeah.
I mean, when you
Let's
create
take
a
a vote.
story like this, you kind of have to know. But
Yeah.
so yeah, let's take a vote. If you believe that RJ had no idea where the series is going to end up, go ahead and raise your hand. Don't be shy.
So most
Twitter.
unpopular.
Twitter.
The most
George
unpopular.
George R. R. Martin is a gardener, but Robert Jordan was an architect. And so George R. R. Martin just kind of sees what grows in his garden and reacts. But Robert Jordan, I think, had much more structure and idea.
So let's give it an extra vote. If you believe that Robert Jordan knew where the series is going to end, but was uncertain of the path that it was going to take to get there, raise your hand.
Well, do you mean like 100%?
Like
have it all
100%, like
written out?
he might have had, let's say, no more than 50% of it figured out, but the other 50% was, let's see what happens with the characters as I write them. So if you think, all right, let's go with this. He knew it was going to end, but he only 50% or more knew what was going to happen to get to the end. Raise your hand.
Wait, only
50% or
only-
less.
50%
That's
or
what it
no,
is. Less.
nope.
No,
I'm saying
50%
50% or
less.
more. I'm saying
Okay,
50% or more.
I think so. And the quick
Okay.
reason I'll say is because almost every character in Eye of the World is a main character the rest of the time.
All right.
Sure.
So we got 3 out of 3. Now let's say same scenario. He knows what's going to happen to the end, but he only knows 49% or less of how they're going to get there.
Okay.
Raise your hand.
I'm so confused.
I
I
don't-
wanted to be on the. Or I think he knew way more going into it. I messed it
All
up.
right.
Do
So
I
we,
start
no,
over?
no, no,
good.
you're fine.
You're
So we have
I-
a 4-2 vote right now. The Robert Jordan knew most of what was going to happen to lead to the end of the
Yeah.
series.
That's me.
No, it sounds like it's
Where-
a 5-1 now.
Like an astonishing amount. that if
There's
we
only
knew how
6
much
people
we-
here, and I think Dan voted with me that he knew less than 50%.
Okay. I didn't
of
realize
how
that you were
gonna
voting
get to
less
the
than
end.
50%.
I
Okay,
was
cool.
voting
Yeah.
less.
I don't
42
think
then.
he planned
like
on
it.
over 1,000 characters being named and all that. I don't think he planned all
Dude,
that.
and like 98%
That being said, I think he knew
of them are Aes
49%.
Sedai with
Yeah.
with a name that starts with S.
Yeah.
It's like 90%
And
of
the
the
rest
named
started with
characters.
A. The rest started with A.
Aaron
But I think he knew about like 48.539624968 tailgate fine percent.
That,
Okay,
that
fine.
checks
Okay.
out. That checks out.
But anyway, we do have the moment. I know, Vance, you have to dip out. But if you do have like 2 minutes at max or so, why don't you go ahead and where can we find the Gleemen? What are you guys about? Again, where can we come and enjoy you, and not just you, but Drew as well?
Right. So we are the Gleemen on YouTube. That is the space Gleemen. Men as in plural men, not man. We just released a culture series video this week, as well as I released one about Perrin and Fail on Monday. And Drew has one that's supposed to be out as today as of recording, though I'm not sure if he met a schedule. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, go check us out. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. We're shamelessly hawking our own videos and occasionally partaking in some polls with everyone else.
Do you have do you have dates for those episodes? Like dates, because we don't know exactly what date this episode is going to come out on.
Right. So the culture series part 2 video we released, it says 2 days ago. Today is August 14th. So that would have been August 12th that came out.
Nice. Well,
There
we
you
look
go.
forward to more videos from the two of you. I'm sure that there will be at least a few that drop between the time that this is recorded and the time that this is posted. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Go
Yeah,
follow
thanks
the
for having
Gleemen.
me.
Go follow the Gleemen on everything you can. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow on you on not YouTube, but I mean, if it gives you both
Everywhere.
options, do it. But follow definitely on Twitter. I believe you said you have an Instagram as well.
Mhm.
Go
pretty
follow
easy
them
to
everywhere. Yeah, they're fantastic peeps, and maybe if I can bug Vance enough in the future, they'll have their own Discord.
Yeah.
Possibly. Well, we need a little bit more of a following. We're 50 subscribers strong right now, so let's go and
Yeah,
get some
that's
more.
Never-
50
never too
people
early
that
to
don't
start.
have a place to go, Vance.
I did my part.
40 of them are already in other discords.
Doesn't matter.
That's true.
It's
Fair
never
enough.
too early to start, but it can always be too late to start.
Well, it's
I don't
very
think that
much
works with the
Hey,
internet,
dude,
but
I mean, Gleemen don't run the tavern, guys. Gleemen go around and
This is
entertain other people's.
Oh,
Right? What are you guys doing to
Oh.
this guy? You're trying to change his whole thing. He's going to become like a
Vin-
owner.
Vince,
He's
did
got to
you
like think
that's
about
fair. Now I feel like an asshole.
HIPAA and all the getting sued for malfeasance.
I'm not
That's
worried
all
about
he-
HIPAA. They're not doctors. They're Gleemen.
Well, I mean,
Vince,
you're
did
saying
you
if like he's
slip
got
Ryan
to
a
create his
20?
own. He's got to create his own server.
No. If someone happens to create it for him and then he
Oh,
has
yeah.
ownership, who knows? Who knows what could happen?
There we go. You'll just inherit an inn called the Randy Gleeman, and then you'll be fine.
Do I make you Randy, baby? Do I make you burp? But Vance, thank you so much for making the time. I know that you need to go right now before you get your ears boxed. Tell Drew that we love him, that we missed him, and I'm sure there will be opportunities in the future for you guys to come back on to the Black Tower podcast kind of event type thing.
Event type thing.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for having us. And I will catch you all later.
Yep. Have a good one,
Bye,
man.
Vance. Gleemen are awesome, man.
They are.
They make Beltane
Awesome.
all the much better.
Oh, we
Now that everybody's facial order on my screen has changed, we have one individual left that has an idea that none of us care about. So thank you all for coming out to. No, I'm just kidding.
Bye.
So we've heard from Dan, we've heard from Drew, we've heard from the rest of us, but we haven't heard an unpopular opinion from Daniel. And I don't mean Daniel Green. I mean Daniel from the Black Tower podcast.
Yeah.
You have to have an unpopular opinion. I know you well enough to know that you have
Just
to
look
have
at him.
one.
Just look at that face.
Here's my binder.
Thank you. I will need that. No, I actually have plenty of unpopular opinions of my own to bring up, and I think the one that I'm going to use for this particular thing, it may not actually be that unpopular. I don't know. I've definitely seen on Twitter that there are some people that go back and forth. I don't know how it'll be with this group of people. But my particular unpopular opinion is that the White Tower is actually the most destructive entity in Randland until the Shan-Chan show up. Until the Shan-Chan show up. Because they are actually far more destructive. But
I think I blew up my microphone on those claps.
my unpopular opinion is that the White Tower is actually, while they are actually an entity that brings a lot of things together and do actually stop a lot of war and whatnot, I do actually think that's true. Based on their own rules, based on their own traditions, and based on how they view the world, especially people like the Amarlin Seat and the head of Ajas, that they actually do more harm than good in the Third Age.
I'll be right back.
I don't think that was always true, but I definitely think that in the Third Age, the White Tower is actually more destructive than it is helpful. That is my unpopular opinion.
Wow.
I think I'm up first, and you have an effective arguing style. I was coming up with points to rebut, and then you did a good job of addressing the points I was going to bring up, which is cheating, I think.
He pre-butted your rebut.
So the one thing I was going to point out was I think there's a lot more positive that the Aes Sedai do that we don't see, because we see the Tower Aes Sedai, the ones who stay there, and they're kind of the most useless of the bunch because they're so self-absorbed and into Tower politics and all the infighting, for the most part, most of them. And we don't see the ones like Cadswain, who's going out and catching false dragons who are causing wars. And we don't see the Greys like Anura, who are spending their entire life with Barrelane and helping Tyr to not overtake Mayene, or the ones that stay in the borderlands and advise those rulers and help them. Although I think there should be a lot more Greens that do that, because they're sitting on their butts in the tower instead of fighting the actual Shadow Spawn who frequently attack. So I think there is more positive that we see the tower do than is kind of presented in the books, because it's the less interesting side of the tower. But I think I would agree on the whole that until the Shanshan get there, it's probably the most destructive also, because there are just so many corruptive influences it provides as well. So, and I also just can't really think of anything else that is super destructive before the Shanshan. So I think
You're not wrong.
I think I'll agree on the whole.
All the civil and smaller wars. The White Cloaks.
Yeah, but it's never one thing. Oh, yeah, White Cloaks.
Ooh,
Yeah, but they
okay.
have so little power, though. I don't think
You're
I
not
would
wrong.
quite
They
give them-
control an entire country.
No, and
Yeah, but
that's
they
actually
just
one of the
stay there.
reasons that I actually think that the White Tower is the most destructive, is that they have the most ability to start in the White Tower, but then exit the White Tower and go to other places, and for lack of a better phrase, fuck shit up everywhere they go, because with the exception of Amadisia, they are actually kind of accepted and well invited into
Actually,
sort
not
of
Tyr
everywhere
either.
else. Oh no, you're right. Tyr is also a good example of where
Probably don't
Aes
spend too
Sedai
much
aren't
time in formatting
well
either.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a part of me that wants to say what I truly believe, and there's a part of me that wants to try to play devil's advocate. And I'm having to choose between the
Why?
Dragon's Fang and the Flamatar Valen here.
Wow.
So there's a part of me that wants to,
But they're all the same symbol.
yeah, all part of the same symbol, but they're missing 50% of their motherfucking people.
Wait, what? Go.
What?
Explain.
Because they're missing the
Oh, man.
Dragon's Fang or the asha'man side of the ancient Aes Sedai symbol. Because Aes Sedai, used to not just be an exclusive term to female channelers only. There was no exclusivity to Aes Sedai, but that's no longer the case. The White Tower, in and of itself, I think is a good example of a lot of the way people describe people that were a part of not necessarily Darth Vader's Death Star, as Ryan seems to have teleported to with his red background, but more so of I often describe the White Cloaks in the same way, though it's not as abundantly obvious. An organization with the best of intentions at heart. The example I was going to use is like the Manhattan Project, the development of nuclear weapons. The people that did some of the worst possible things with the best possible intentions. I mean, the program of gentling male channelers with absolutely zero aftercare, literally most gentle male channelers that were gentled at the White Tower were found dead inside of the boundaries of Tar Valon. Because there was no aftercare. So, well, you can't channel, you're not a problem anymore. Just go off and fuck off, as far as we are concerned, which is more of a shot against the Red Aja than anything else. But ultimately, the tower as a whole is responsible for how any individual group of sisters acts. So you wind up with this group that has survived Ultra Hawkwing and everything that's happened, that is left in a more legacy position of power than a position of true legitimacy and power. It's their legacy that gives the White Tower power. There's these people that whenever all these other people that could use magic went insane, these people didn't. So they must be stronger. So, and they live longer than most of the rest of us, but they don't care to share that secret or do too much for us in that regard, unless you have plenty of coin. But they have so much. The more you learn the White Tower, I don't think in the early first 3 or 4 books that you could argue that the White Tower does bad. It's hard to. That there are people in the White Tower that do bad. That the White Tower isn't perfect, but it doesn't come apparent until later, where you find out just how much infighting there is in the White Tower. It's Congress all over again. It's most modern political systems all over again. We're fighting each other because we disagree on the fundamentals of what we represent. It's the Red Aja fighting people that don't want to immediately go out and as close to murder as you can, male channelers, versus people that read history books and say, well, one of those has got to be the Dragon Reborn, and the White Aja going, well, logically, there should be one out there somewhere eventually that we should look out for. And Then you have the Green Lodge. It's like, well, we need to make sure that we keep training men to fight, and if there are strong men that can fight to fight the Dark One, because it's going to happen. I mean, it's so much infighting that I think we get a disproportionate view on their view of the outside world early on than what their actual view and goals for the outside world are. Because we learn that over time they've recruited far less and less and less and less potential channelers. It's a weakening organization because of the overall philosophy that the entire tower adopts. It's a flawed philosophy. It's a flawed governing system. And to be perfectly honest, their sphere of influence is only as strong as it is because they have a kinship with the Queen of Andor. So you have a kinship with the Queen that's at the center of the continent that by tradition and culture is one of you, be it honorary or not. It's nothing good comes from that. I think they're a far more overall destructive force. And I think that's why we get the culmination that we do. Whenever the tower is indeed split, when you have Rebel Aes Sedai, when the White Tower does divide, when Elaida betrays her Amyrlin, though I don't believe that's entirely her decision. I think, who the fuck is her keeper?
Alviarin.
Yeah, I think Alviarin has a lot more to do with that than we realize in the reading of the series. But it's I liken the White Tower a lot to the White Cloaks. That there is a forgive the phrase, come to Jesus moment that the organization has to face. And leading up to that, they do less and less good for the rest of the world. I've talked far too long already. So next person.
Well,
Dan, Ryan?
And actually, to your point, Andrew, so yeah, the White Tower to me is not as much destructive as I would describe them as being ineffectual. So we have a Red Aja that is, let's say, theoretically about 1/6 or 1/5 of the total population. And we've had 2 or 3 false dragons, which, okay, and one could channel, one could not. This is not a busy group. We have the Green Aja that when they're actually battle tested, suck bad. We have an Aja that's dedicated to logic and
seemingly
mediating.
no logic.
And mediating, but I don't see much mediation going on. There's one dedicated to reading and stuff. However, it takes Elaine to just study an angry owl and go, well, no, actually, I can do this.
Well, that was hidden behind the plot device of a talent. To be fair,
Egwin's able to recreate Quandar. None of these are grays. The grays are ineffectual for the most part. It is mostly you have magical women, the only people that have magic in the whole land.
I'm sorry, did you just suggest that Aes Sedai are magical girls?
Yes.
That's an unpopular opinion right there.
I'm not sure what did I step into. I'm
Sorry, magical girls are things like Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is like one of the most sort of mainstream magical girls where they like transform and they're all in like high school and it's mostly anime.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was totally a joke. I don't actually think that you were equating those two things.
Daniel, your browser must be a dark place, my man.
It might be.
I'm just kidding. So yeah, I see him potentially as being destructive, but for the most part, I see him as ineffectual. They have a relationship with Andor. A lot of the nations don't even let Aes Sedai in, or was it Faldara that has the block? Farmanning. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah. That has the entire block where you can't channel. There's more adversary to the idea of people that are magic versus people that are not magic than there are this cohesive blending. They're just up in their White Tower. I mean, it's called the White Tower, for crying out. They're just up in their White Tower, just doing whatever they do without having much control over most of what I see. So I don't see them as destructive as being just kind of crappy and not really effectual, not reaching their potential.
I think it comes down more to that because of the reputation that Aes Sedai have built over the last 3,000 years, that because of their ineffectuality, it becomes damaging to the current world because so many people are looking to the White Tower for guidance for what they should do. And very early on, by the time they make it to the White Tower to say, like, well, what's going on? What should we do? The White Tower is too focused on, well, half of our people fucked off and said they don't believe us anymore and they don't care about us. And the person in charge is building a fucking palace.
Mhm.
So, fight the shadow. That's the guidance we have for you.
Sell all your belongings, fight the shadow, go, my child, say 12 Hail Marys.
Now, I'm sure we're not hearing about all the healing that the yellows do. Perhaps
All
we're
the
not
healing?
hearing about certain
All
things.
that healing.
I mean,
All that healing.
All
they
the,
may be doing
travel to
magic.
Tarvalin if you can, and we might heal you.
Yeah, if you have the coin.
Yeah, so perhaps there's yellows just kind of dispersed around doing good deeds because they're magical and can do that thing. I'm not sure, but for the most part, they suck.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
I'm not gonna come in hot. I'm gonna come in lukewarm.
Nice.
I appreciate that.
I'm in
Pretty sore
agreement.
from the heat.
I agree with the group. I think that the Aes Sedai are not only dangerous, and I think they're a net negative effect on the world. And I think that's kind of Egwene's purpose, basically, right? Is she's going to go in there and she's has a clarity of mind to see what's going on. Like,
Are you saying Egwene is the Gallad of the White Tower?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No,
I'll go
I
with
actually really like that in terms of, I mean, to be fair, later on in the series, I think it does take, I do like where the White Tower sort of ends, but it takes the Black Tower and the Saladar Aes Sedai to really turn where the White Tower was going. And I think that the split really does actually help the White Tower because it does get worse before it gets better. Don't get me wrong. I think that when all of the Aes Sedai were in the White Tower, they were ineffectual and pretty useless. Though, again, to Badger's point, I think that we don't get enough of all of the Aes Sedai who are like, yeah, fuck the White Tower. I don't want to be there. I want to go do good in the world. And so those Aes Sedai are actually doing what they can. The White Tower itself is relatively ineffectual. And then when they get challenged by this slip of a girl, Amyrlin, and the existence of the Black Tower, I do think that they turn into a pretty solid entity. But again, at the beginning, I think they start pretty either ineffective or, in my opinion, fairly destructive.
I want to add a couple of points. I don't think the Saladar Aes Sedai are actually particularly destructive because they don't really bother anyone. They go into an abandoned city. When they pass back through on the way to Tarvalin, everyone just ignores them. They actually help economies that they pass through by buying a whole ton of stuff and giving soldiers jobs. And really, then they go back into the tower and kind of heals itself. So I think a lot of the White Tower's problems are sort of self-contained and don't hurt that many people in the world. So I'm not sure if it's that destructive. Whereas the White Cloaks, on the other hand, and I'm glad you brought them up, Andrew, they are extremely destructive. They turn people in a village against each other. They cause deaths over and over and over and over again by having people killed for no reason who are suspected of being Dark Friends.
She's a witch.
Yeah.
She turned me into a newt.
But Ryan, I think we interrupted your train of thought. I mean, namely myself. But
it's hard for me to keep anything straight in here, so I'm grasping. But yeah, one point I want to make is: do we believe that 25% of the entire population are Dark Friends?
Of Aes Sedai?
No, I'm saying of everybody, of the world. Like, is that an assumption we have? Do we all have that? I'm assuming we don't, right? But 25%.
I wouldn't say that it's.
But 25% of Aes Sedai are corrupted by the Dark One, Black Aja, correct? So that fact alone, makes, like, imagine like we have a nuclear arsenal and 25% of them just might go rogue. That's in and of itself something we need to contend with. And then so we have these Aes Sedai that are intimately like connected to royalty, and they're advising them. And then that Aes Sedai might actually be a Forsaken who's actually controlling. I mean, so it's not
That
necessarily
never happens at all.
never. But
Aes
it's so
Sedai
Fake
is
news.
Forsaken.
Fake news.
wow, I engendered a fake news chant. Great.
News.
I've been waiting for it. Am I going viral?
I don't know if you should be proud or scared.
This is the time of coronavirus. You don't want to go viral.
But what? So I like to think of these books as, you know, we have, you know, there's our current age, and then we have the Age of Legends, which is kind of an example of a society that's developed alongside the access to the power to such an extent that they've used that to heighten the society around them. And I think that's very purposefully done to show that what is happening in the books is decrepit and horrible and not living up to any standard that's a possibility, and highlighting the ultimate good that could come of these powers, and juxtaposing it with the bitter rancor that is being exhibited, I think is purposeful and well done. And I think that, you know, makes me solidly say I absolutely agree. And yeah, I don't think it's that much of an unpopular opinion.
So,
Yeah, I can't believe it took us so long for someone to mention the Black Aja, which you said the White Tower, and I guess the Black Aja would technically be part of the White Tower. So, yeah, definitely have to agree with
so
you.
let's
Right.
I think that's something
like
we
one
can
in 5 or something. I'm sorry.
I think that's something we can. No, you're fine. I've interrupted enough people at my own self, so by all means, it's only whenever I put on the moderator hat that it's like, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something
I
we
wanna
can
see the
take.
moderator hat.
I don't have one.
I bet
I
it's
should get a flat bill hat that says moderator on it, but then I have to sit there the whole time when I have it on and just be quiet. But I think that's something we can take a vote on. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but the original theory, the quote unquote unpopular opinion, is that the White Tower initially, as we see it through, how far would you say? Until after the rebellion is resolved?
I would say before the split.
Okay. So the
I
White
think the
Tower.
split is
You
probably
said
the
you
best.
said pre-Shanshan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
so
so we'll go with
pre-split,
that.
It's
basically.
gonna be Eye of the World.
Is that pre-Shanshan attack on the tower?
I mean, I was suggesting that it was, you know,
Are we
all
talking
the way
like
up until
the
post
Great Hunt?
Falma, because Falma is a suggestion of Shan-Chan power, and they get kind of gross, but like they don't get super gross until like you actually start reading them after Falma. So I was just thinking sort of pre-split, pre-Saladar.
So do we want to
when
go
there's just
book
White
1 through
Tower
3?
as a whole.
So do we
Pre-vote.
want to
What
go
about
Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and Dragon Reborn?
Effectively, yeah.
That
That would
sounds
sort of be where I would suggest is sort of the White Tower as a whole, as it is from the beginning to the split.
okay. So we'll go with that. So the White Tower, original theory, or original unpopular opinion, being that the White Tower we see from book 1, Eye of the World, all the way through book 3, The Dragon Reborn, is a destructive.
Is the most
The most
destructive force
destructive force
in Randoland.
in the
would
world
be
that we
a
see.
popular opinion.
So hands that agree, let's go up now. Oh, that's 3 out of 5. Hands that disagree.
I
You can be in the middle. You can be in the middle.
well,
If you
I
want.
mean, here's what just popped in my head.
Mhm.
If we really just logically take it to the end, what Maureen does in book 3 supersedes anything that any other Aes Sedai does. She gets Rand where he needs to be to save the world. So
But
also at the
also
very end, I
operating
said, you know
without the
what?
knowledge of the rest of the White Tower.
She is still.
Yeah, she had to. No, she had
But
to like
she is-
subvert them.
Yeah, no,
which means the White
if
Tower's
you are
organization-
sort of giving all of the bad apples of the Black Tower or of the Black Aja as much credence for their responsibility in the White Tower, you do actually have to give Moraine, Cadswain, all of these other Aes Sedai that are working outside the White Tower as
Yeah.
much credence.
Well,
So
and when
I
they
like that.
win,
That's
they
nice.
win. Yeah, I mean, like the net effect is a net positive because, God damn it, they won. Boom.
But that's Moraine acting as a person that happens to be part of the White Tower versus the White Tower's action.
So I would also
No, but
add,
Which just
do
makes
like-
what they did even more incredible because they actually had to almost become a non-Aes Sedai. Literally, they had to like go against, they were going covert and saving the world, on their own. I think that's
SEAL Team Moraine, bitch.
basically.
So, do the actions from Moraine speak for the entire White Tower, even though the entire White Tower was against her and Suan?
Well, wait. Is it the
That
White
is a whole different discussion.
Oh.
and if we're thinking
I mean,
big
that's the
picture
thing.
like
Can we-
that,
Part 3 coming soon.
Can we take Moraine's actions as representative of the White Tower? Because the question is about the White Tower as a whole, as an entire organization. 90% at least of which were unaware of what Moraine was doing because the plots between Moraine and Suan were very, very secretive and private. So I don't
So
think they can
again-
be representative of the White Tower.
Except
No,
that
I
again,
agree with you.
think about the
Cameron
fact that
Center.
again, if you're talking about or if you're giving the White Tower sort of credit and giving them a dock for all of the Black Aja Aes Sedai, you definitely still have to give them credit for what Moraine was doing, especially as Ryan just said, that her actions were. And she was deposed for it in some ways, but sanctioned by the Amyrlin seat.
Yeah. And the Amerlin
So
was in
I
turn
think-
for hiding the identity and the actions to support the Dragon Reborn, disposed by a majority of the
Deposed.
White Tower Hall.
Yeah, no, and so again, I would say that all of it encompasses the White Tower. And in fact, to Badger's point earlier, I would actually give, as he sort of was talking about, I would give the White Tower credit for the fact that they trained these Aes Sedai, for the fact that they sent them out into the world and whatnot. Everything that Cadswain does, everything that every Yellow who is walking the earth, healing anybody that they come across, any of that stuff. The vast majority of the people, not the kin, but anyone who is still claiming to be Aes Sedai out in the world,
Mhm.
the White Tower still gets credit for that,
I
in
was gonna-
my
Yeah,
opinion.
I was going to
In
say.
my opinion.
I was
Go
going
ahead,
to say.
Ryan.
Really, it depends. Maybe it just depends on how Moraine would see it.
So
As-
I'm
as
blowing
the
on my
deal
finger.
breaker.
I'm blowing on my finger here because you brought up Catswain as an example, and most of the Aes Sedai in the White Tower don't believe that she's still alive. They believe she's dead, which means she was trained before this iteration was really around.
Sure,
Like I'm
but
saying,
she
the
is
vast
still
majority-
Aes Sedai. Therefore,
Yeah.
she is still
So-
connected to the White Tower. She's
Yeah,
not kin,
so what you're
she's
arguing
not
here
a, like,
is a
lone,
differentiation.
Whatever.
What you're arguing is a differentiation between the question is, does the White Tower not do the Aes Sedai? And the Aes Sedai in mass, yes, may make up the White Tower, but what we see very early on is an en masse Aes Sedai, an en masse White Tower that detracts and disagrees with the direction that Moraine takes, which by definition means that the White Tower as a whole disagrees with Moraine and Suwan's actions. That's why we see Suwan and Leanne, I know I'm not pronouncing it the same way the actress does,
Liana.
or stilled. Yeah, Liana. Why they are stilled, why they are removed. Their very actions that you are stating that support the White Tower not being a destructive force against Randland are the very reasons why they're removed from power, because of the secrecy and because of the actions they take. Let's not forget that once Elida takes power, she spends her entire time literally trying to put a collar on the Dragon Reborn. So
Yeah,
all this
You're
stuff
in.
that has
You're-
yielded
come on,
positive
come on, boy.
results.
You're in. Let's go.
All this stuff that has yielded a positive result is not an action of the White Tower in mass. It is an action that comes from Suwan, Leanne, because I can't remember to pronounce it any other way, and Moraine. And ultimately, yes, once we get further on past book 3, which is beyond the scope of the unpopular opinion, Cat Swain. So,
no, it's fair, and again, that's one of the reasons that, like, again, I think that this is a slightly unpopular opinion, but at the same time, there is legitimacy to it. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I brought up that particular one for this particular episode, because I think that there has been a lively discussion. But yeah, no, again, it does a little bit come down to how you define the White Tower. If you actually define the White Tower as the Aes Sedai who are present in the White Tower at the time, and anything sanctioned by the majority of the White Tower, it does become a little different than all of the organization of the Aes Sedai at the time.
And just the people that have a membership card.
I mean, I think even if you're thinking like Moraine ultimately got Rand to the good place, and so that overrides everything. I think that's getting like a little bit too big picture, because like in the way the pattern's woven, you could say, you know, nothing was destructive in the long run. Even the White Cloaks had their role to play in the Light winning the last battle, and so everything was equally helpful. And so I think kind of you have to like draw it back down a little bit to not using that as like an outweighing everything else. And I would also add that the Shanshan, I'm not sure if we're looking big picture, are they even destructive? I think they might be a more positive force in their overall what they contribute.
Only in the Ozymandias did nothing wrong kind of way.
Right. And right. Only in the very very zoomed out, most zoomed out possible view, they helped to win the last battle. It wouldn't have been possible without them.
No, it's true.
All right.
But cool. I think that we've now gotten all 8 unpopular opinions.
Yay!
Yeah. So, you guys that are watching or listening or whatever medium that you're being exposed to this in, from part 1, part 2, we want to hear your thoughts. We've already said in part 1, we want to hear your thoughts. Part 2, we want to hear your thoughts. What are some of the ones that you think were the most surprising to hear? What are some of the ones that you thought that were, oh, well, that was obvious. Like, how could you think any differently? What were your impressions of the unpopular opinions as we stated them here? And maybe what are some you'd like to hear more on? Because if you'd like to hear more on a certain subject, you may not hear it on Black Tower Podcast. You might not hear it from the Badger Reborn, sorry. You may not hear it on the Gleemen. You may not hear it on the Way of the Leaf. You may hear it from a combination or none of the above. So go to the people that have the opinion or that you like their opinion the most and say, hey, I'd like to hear more about this. Tell us, hey, Andrew, can you expound more on your ideas about what the One Power actually does? Or maybe go to Daniel and say, can you guys expand on the White Tower as a destructive force, books 1 through 3?
Or maybe go to Brother Dan and say, hey, you know that binder you've got? Let's hear more.
Let's see it all. What secrets do you hold?
Which volume do you want, man?
How many do you have?
Are there tabs? Are there volumes? Are there episodes? Or what do we got going on?
Appendices?
Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Like, let us know if you want to hear more on particular opinions. Again, if you are super surprised because you're like, that's not an unpopular opinion, I'm 100% for that. Or what in the world are you talking about? That is the most unpopular opinion I've ever heard. Definitely go ahead and give us feedback.
Come find us.
Any of us, Black Tower Podcast, Way of the Leaf, the Gleemen, the Badger, all of it. Do it all.
I can't promise we'll all tackle it together. However, whoever you talk to about it may well choose to tackle it. And one of the other ones, one of us. So if you talk to the Badger Reborn about how could you not agree about theory Y or unpopular opinion X, 9, A12, because my child is named Kyle, but I wrote it weird. It may be somebody else that picks it up and decides to have the discussion on it because it can inspire things across the board. But let us know what you think. Let us all know what you think, and go check everybody out, because there's going to be different content that we all put out at different times in different mediums. It's not always going to be the same. Oftentimes, I'm sure it's very, very far from it.
And I'm sure that even if we do the same topic, we all have vastly different takes.
So with that, Advance with the Gleemen already did his plugs. Hopefully you heard them. If you haven't, rewind back about 40 minutes ish or so, about 38 to be exact, as I'm saying this, to hear where to find the Gleemen. But Badger, where can people go to hear more of your stuff and to hear more of what you think and even engage with you?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel's name is just the Badger Reborn, so you can search that in YouTube. Also a Twitter account, Badger Reborn, which I don't post a lot of long form content, but occasionally have some interesting polls or interesting weird opinions or whatnot. So you can follow me there as well. And then I have a Facebook account, but I don't really do much with it besides post my own stuff onto Facebook. But you're more than welcome to friend the Badger Reborn Facebook account too. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to add that I've loved being here with you guys, and the editing that I know you're gonna have to do for the podcast, like cutting out my feedback from not wearing headphones in the last episode. Really appreciate you guys doing all that to get us all in the same place and make these happen. So it's been really fantastic, and I'm glad we got a chance to do it.
Because this is your first like full on legitimate collaboration, isn't it?
This is my first
technically
collaboration. Really,
I guess now.
Well, it's true. The last one with this group, the first one of any
Oh,
type.
yay!
So yeah, I really love doing that as well, and we'll definitely be planning on doing more of those in the future.
Yeah.
Your videos
been
are awesome.
You've been a wonderful presence here. So definitely, if you get an invitation to collab, take them up on it, because as long as they are solid content creators, you are also a solid content creator who we've really appreciated having.
Well, thank you very much.
And
Thank you very much.
if you've now got the bug for collaborations, reach out to people. You know, we all have that secretive collective Discord for creators. Not super secretive, but secretive enough.
Not super secretive.
I mean, people know the name, but it's only creators that are allowed.
We're kind of a big deal. People know us.
There's people there.
Steel.
Most people are there. There's some that aren't for whatever reason, but hit people up. That's what it's there for. Hit us up. And I don't just mean Black Tower Podcast. I mean, hit up Leafcast, hit up the Gleemen, all that stuff, because collaborations are always fun.
Indeed.
But yeah, so now it's your turn. The Way of the Leaf. Where can we find you? Where can we hear more of your amazing puppet voices and more of your amazing content? Where can we find you guys?
Well, first off, I just want to say, thank you. We realize this is kind of like a Survivor Island style thing you're doing, where you're having us on and then you're going to have some other content creators. I just hope we make it to the next round. I think we really put our heart and soul in. I think
voted off the island.
we bring a certain je ne sais quoi that you might not get from other content creators.
Speaking French.
We collaborate well. Anyway, so yeah. So
Je ne sais quoi means eyebrows in French.
every Thursday at 8 Eastern, we are live streaming with our first time reader. We have a segment. So we have a first time reader. We are on just chapters 13 and 14, I think we're at right now. So we're early on in the Eye of the World. Our first time reader is amazing when we're collecting more first time readers. So we're going to have actually some more on, and it's kind of growing. The format is coalescing and it's working out well. So we'd love to have you guys watch on Thursdays. We are also going to be having guests on for episodes of what we call Tavern Talk, and that's going to be where we just have free form discussions like this that can involve anything we want. So everyone who's been a part of this is going to get an invitation at one point.
Check your emails.
Yeah. So we loved working with you, Badger. You're so kind. It's more like you're more like a meerkat reborn. You're not Badger might give you a bad connotation. It's really, you're the nicest man I've met in the world.
That's old
The Gleemen-
reincarnation.
The Gleemen are great. We've been hanging out with them on Discord. He's going to actually give us some metal song, hopefully, for this thing we're doing in homage to Bella. So yeah, we got a lot of things going on, but mostly we're focusing on YouTube, and we have a podcast that we're actually working on also. So you can find us on YouTube at The Way of the Leaf, and then you can find the podcast is The Way the Leaf Cast. And yeah, Dan, you got anything else?
No, that's it. Except for the Badger Reborn, I love your videos. I truly love your videos. I love your takes on a lot of the things you're doing.
Man,
So
have you ever gotten fangirled so hard?
I have not.
This is
You guys
amazing.
gotta keep
Fan
having me on
puppeted,
here.
sir.
It's hyping me up so much.
Yeah,
So,
you-
yeah.
I love it.
Your
Getting
min
fan
take is
puppeted.
your min take is one of the hottest takes I've had that I instantly agree with. Like I now
Oh,
believe
That brings
what you
tears to
believe.
my eyes.
Yeah. So at any moment, we would love to have you guys on, and this has been super fun.
yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks again. This has been great.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on. I think that you have just suggested an awesome Thunderdome-esque YouTuber panel that we may have to do at the end.
It's
Where
probably
we
going
just
to happen now.
invite the most bestest person from each of the three that we have planned.
I like how you're pretending to invent this right now when we all know I just
Yeah.
uncovered it. Come
Oh,
on
we
now.
literally
Yeah,
just
he's got
said
this
that, like, you guys,
I
this is your
unearthed
fault.
it.
No, we're not gonna claim
we
creative
definitely
reality.
just came up with this right now. 100%, 100. It definitely wasn't a thing before. You are fake news.
No,
that actually
no.
sounds super fun.
This
Like
is-
I'm
this is all
legitimately
Ryan's fault
serious
now.
that sounds amazing.
No, this is all Ryan's fault now, because if after September 15th, which is the last one we have scheduled to record, if Leafcast or The Way of the Leaf isn't a part of the next round, Ryan, that's
we'll
more
never
that's
hear the
more
end of
your
it.
fault than ours, because now this is a competition. So we'll do that. We'll this is part 2. So
I'm
obviously-
confident.
Hey guys, vote
I'm
for your
confident.
favorites in the Thunderdome.
So we'll probably do that. Like, who from part 1 and part 2 of this part of the series was your favorite? And they're like, okay,
Oh
it was so and so, and so we'll pull them.
Feels like high school. God damn it.
And now it's a popularity contest.
No, we're doing this.
Damn it.
We're doing
Damn
Battle
it.
of the Bands. No, it's Battle of the Bands. We got this.
Most
Great.
likely to be on YouTuber panel part 4.
Great.
There
The
you go.
really handsome guy's going to be president. And the really pretty girl's going to be the head cheerleader. God damn it.
Because then we'll get somebody from this one, we'll get somebody from the next one and the last one to all come on together. And then from there, they've got to drill it down to. We just want to do
Top
one from those 3,
Oh, Jesus.
three who
Yeah,
take
and then we'll do an
spot.
episode with just
Two
them.
men enter, one man leaves.
Probably-
Thunderdome.
One of the
So,
Black Tower hosts
speak-
gets kicked off and replaced with us.
I know, right? It'd be hilarious.
Oh,
like,
God,
we're gonna get rid of
totally
Sorry,
Andrew.
Daniel. See ya.
We're gonna get rid of Andrew and bring in Badger as the wild card.
Yeah, next
like,
thing you know,
speaking-
Andrew's in Badger's home doing the videos from his home.
Sitting there wearing a Badger onesie.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, guys, whether we end up doing anything like that or not, please know that we have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed having all of you guys on. This would not be possible without you guys. This collaboration is one of the most fun things I've done with the podcast, and I don't mean that to belittle anything that we've done with the podcast, but it's also been a great time. So thank you guys
The
so much for being a
contest
part of it.
is. Thank you, Ryan. The contest is happening. now.
Yeah.
Battle dome.
But yeah, so
Campaign
we do
yourselves.
have.
But speaking of the next one,
Yep, we
Because
do
I don't
actually
wanna
have
forget that.
more of these YouTuber panels planned. We're actually having a bunch more people on. It's going to be a fantastic thing. I don't know if any of it'll live up to the first one.
No,
I
your
don't know.
lineups,
I
your
don't
lineups
know.
are
Oh,
solid.
yeah.
Your
they're
lineups
really
will.
don't
are
know.
They'll be
solid.
fantastic.
You got great lineups coming up.
But I'm super excited. Again, we've had some fantastic people for parts 1 and 2. We're going to have some fantastic people lined up for the next one and the one after that. So definitely please go ahead and tune in. And please seriously, go ahead and check out the Badger Reborn, the Gleemen, and the Way of the Leaf. Not only have they been super awesome and super fun on this particular collaboration, but they're also super fun on their own channels, and they absolutely deserve at least a follow, if not a serious watch of everything that they've put out.
Yes. Eyes bleeding at the end. You will not regret it.
So
And then please send us pictures.
Guys, I'm honored to be a part of this. Thank you for inviting us. You guys,
we've loved having you all. Badger, Dan, Ryan, Vance, Drew, Josh. I'm gonna name you just because you weren't able to make this one.
Who?
Josh,
Who's that?
our
Just
Soravan Mahale, our storm leader.
But we love having you all here. The next episode will contain 3 other content creators. I'm going to leave it there for it to be a bit of a mystery. But I guarantee you one. Well, I guarantee all 3 actually are people that you've heard of before. And if you haven't listened to, you need to. 100% guaranteed. But in the meantime, if you're looking for more Black Tower podcast content and interactions, the easiest way is to head over to blacktowerpod.podbean.com. If you are on computer, look on the left-hand side, just below our icon, and you will see links to take and get to our Patreon, to get to our YouTube. I think Facebook is there. I'm not sure. But no,
I'm pretty
think
sure
Facebook's
all
there.
of the links are there.
Twitter is there, as well as the merch store, which is shop.blacktowerpod.com, or is it shop.spreadshirt.blacktowerpod? Anyway, click the link. It'll take you where you need to go. You can get some fantastic Black Tower podcast merch. There's also some like hashtag embrace the taint, but also most notably, there's some hashtag Dragon Sworn, which is the fandom name as chosen by the fandom that you can buy there, and all the proceeds go into us doing bigger and better things for the fandom.
Wonderful people.
Yeah. In addition to that, the Twitter, in case you don't want to go to one site and click the link, is at Tower Podcasts. If you want to have a more intimate conversation with us where not everybody sees it, you can email us at blacktowerpod@gmail.com. And as always, you can find our episodes at blacktowerpod.podbean.com. That is our main hosting site.
But yeah,
but
seriously,
go ahead,
guys,
Daniel.
Again, I cannot say enough. Thank you guys so much for coming in and collaborating with us. You guys are fantastic. I literally cannot say enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, fun time, guys.
If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, make sure that you go over to the Badger Reborn, that you go over to the to Way of the Leaf, that you go over to the Gleemen. Give them a follow, subscribe to them, like the videos, follow them on Twitter.
That bell.
Yeah, definitely do that so you know when the next one comes out for their channels.
Smash the bell.
Yeah.
Make it the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
Do
Crack
all the
it.
clicky button things and show them how much you love them, because we love them immensely. You guys have been fantastic. And Daniel, I think you have a key phrase at this moment.
I do. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a lovely, lovely morning. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.